they're mainly to appease people, but they don't produce anything at the end. And a lot of times when we're doing something and we're doing it low key, it's to not generate panic in the public or fear, and you're kind of keeping it small so that the community isn't, because a search really drains the community. They start to worry about things. They start to think it could impact them. And most of the times, the people that we're looking for, it's a contained incident. It's not somebody that's doing harm to lots of people, but we still don't want people to get worked up and concerned about it. And then we have search parties where we've come in and the public is out searching for somebody who may have went out and harmed themselves with a gun, and they've got their children out walking with them searching with somebody. And like, what do you think you're going to potentially find to take that child in there? And it's low key. Is the best work is done by less than 10 people off of the hood of a car. Yeah.
Well, and I think you've touched on a few points there. Many of the times we've gone out, it turns out to be low key. It turns out to be small. Not so much we planned it that way. It's just that sometimes you're right. You come out after the fanfare is over and they just don't have enough resources left. But sometimes it's not a bad thing. There have been other incidents where people were told, don't come. It'll affect the work of the dogs. And recently, I think I don't know if I shared it with you. I might have. A search and rescue dog mythbuster. Dogs won't be distracted if people are out looking around, people are out. They know their job. We don't shut down airports when we have a bomb dog look around. We don't need to shut down the whole neighborhood. So you can basically do your job without stirring the panic, like you mentioned.
With a good dog.
With a good dog, yeah. You need a good dog. And that's something we talked a little bit about. What's changed over the years? Well, I will say when I started, and there's definitely people that have done this a lot longer, my mentors, it was just human scent. So the dog would just look for human scent. Now there's a variety of disciplines, be it live human scent, decomposed human scent that's inaccessible, human scent that's in a water, human scent that's on evidence. So there's a lot of variations. It's still human scent, comparable to a drug dog that has to have so many different target odors as well, but they're all in the narcotic ranges. So with that being said, the dogs know their job and they're not going to be distracted by other things going on. So we don't need to shut down the roads, shut everything down. The quality of the dogs in, for instance, police departments, I feel has gotten so much better. The police dogs, sheriff's departments, police departments, they're really doing a nice job. Unfortunately, some of this isn't rubbing off on search and rescue dogs. There's outstanding search and rescue dogs out there. And I think it would benefit the community the most if we were to have a little bit better of an infrastructure, a standardization, something like that, so that the dogs could get out, do their job, and the police, the public, the fire departments would know what to expect and what not to expect when they call in these resources. I
think many of the police dogs, I think they are better, and I think a lot of it's better, like you said. But I think that a lot of problems with the dogs is not the dogs; it's the handlers. I think there's a lot of unrealistic handlers out there, and I think there's a lot of handlers that want to be rock stars and they want to buy the breed du jour from Germany and get it shipped over and be a hero. And
now, I love the dogs from Germany. So.
Basically, they want to do all that, and they want to throw money and a little bit of time at a problem. And it's work. It takes a lot of work. And I think in that process with the dogs, I think one of the key things they miss out on is they miss out on that bond that people form with their dogs at the very beginning. There is something to be said for, you going and picking out that dog from a litter from somebody you trust and know the heritage of dog and know that breeder's reputation and the reasons you pick that dog and that bond that happens with them versus people that spend a lot of money on purchasing a dog. And you're right, there needs to be some accountability, some standard. But but I think that there's too many people out there muddying the waters and confusing authorities in the middle of emergency operations by bringing different resources to them, dogs being one of them, and saying, I can wrap this up for you if you just put me and my dog or me and my drone or me and my whatever out there, you know.
Well, it takes a team. It takes a lot of different people doing a lot of things. As far as the actual dog, and the dog is the tool. You can have the best bond. You can have a puppy, you can start a puppy from scratch, or you could buy a trained dog, or you could just have a dog donated. We're very lucky. We've had 4 donated dogs, and we've been real lucky. They've all worked out. You can buy the best, most expensive dog, and if you don't keep up with the training, they'll pretty much deteriorate. And you can get any breed and a rescue at that, an adult or a puppy, and follow a training protocol and have an outstanding relationship. So it doesn't really matter. I like to think that the standardization is the deciding factor. I am partial to my breed, but we've trained a lot of different dogs and a lot of different breeds. But I think education of the people calling in the resource would be so helpful, so they knew that no one person is going to save the day. What is the protocol? What is the plan? We can come here and we can help you based on this, or that. That's the best any of us can do, I guess.
Well, yeah, and that's one of the things we've talked about is that, like anything, law enforcement or whoever responsible agency is, they need to be educated consumers. In this case, consumers of search and rescue resources. They need to know what to expect, what is right, what is wrong, because they don't have time to figure it out in the middle of a search. Somebody's life could be at stake. They should do this just like they pre-plan for bombs, school situations. They should have a pre-plan for a missing person, not figure it out on the fly, because in the time they're figuring out is the time between life and death, depending on the type of incident that it is. And, we both know many examples where the wrong resources have gotten in there and bamboozled people and just did something, had no outcome, and then it was wrapped up later. But unless you get somebody in there and they explain it to them, now those people are sour towards using search and rescue resources. Yeah,
you're absolutely right. The problem is that in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, it's pretty different than a lot of other areas in that whoever gets the call, whichever officer on duty gets the call, it's his jurisdiction. So it could be his, and usually is, their first ever search. So it's the old fable of feeling the elephant, the trunk versus the tail. To them, that's all search and rescue is. And they may say, well, I'm never going there again. I feel the trunk. I feel the tail. It's the same animal, but they have a totally different perception. If there was a better standardization, like you say, if during maybe during their training, we had more fire drills. I mean, they all pretty much know what to expect. For bomb scares, there's a protocol. For a fire, there's a protocol. Unfortunately, for search and rescue, we don't have that type of protocol in this area. And I probably should have asked the reach of this radio show. If it's more of a local Philadelphia area, then to us, this is what search and rescue is. I was a board member for NASAR, National Association of Search and Rescue. And one of the things that was so difficult with the board is you have people from all different parts of the country, and it's handled so different. Pretty much everything west of the Mississippi is structured, and search and rescue is much more structured through sheriff's departments, whereas over here, the sheriff's departments don't have as much to do with search and rescue, and we're just kind of all different search and rescue teams, all at different levels, no real cohesiveness, and to have it come under one umbrella would be so advantageous to so many people, be it law enforcement, responders, the community, of course, at large would benefit the most.
Well, I think sheriffs, it's because sheriffs have different roles out here than they do when you go on the other side of the Mississippi.
Yeah.
It's more of a support role out here.
And that's just one example.
Yeah.
If we were under some umbrella, if there was some kind of umbrella for search and rescue responders to kind of have some sort of standardization.
Right. And the SAR Council has tried that, but it's never gone all the way. DCNR, Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, has a standard that I don't know where that's going in what direction. It's a base level standard. The good thing about that standard is that it's really no charge to anyone. And I think that whatever it is at an entry level should be no charge. People spend more than enough without having to incur extra to give their time, to fight to give their time. I mean, when people go out to do search and rescue, it's different. I think it's different in many ways than a lot of volunteer things, because if you volunteer at the firehouse, you volunteer at the ambulance, you give your time, and your time turns into money, so you are giving money. I don't know anybody who in search and rescue doesn't give their time and their money. Yeah.
Well, that's absolutely, it's so funny. There was a person, it was a friend of ours, a Virginia canine handler, and he wrote a blog what search and rescue has cost him, and it was well over $20,000. And it wasn't for that long of a period of time. I can't remember how many years it was, but you're right. It costs a lot of money. You need so much equipment, and there's no government funding, and there's very little in the way of grants, and there's very little in the way of support. We're all volunteers. We definitely need, whoever's listening, support your local search and rescue people in so many ways, be it in kind, whether it's donations of radio equipment, puppies. Can always use another puppy. No, but just monetary things, land use. Just there's so many things that are needed.
Well, and it just, somebody asked me last week, they said, you guys are a nonprofit. And I said, no, actually, we're an unprofit. We lose money.
Well,
we lose money because we give money. All the members give money to cover the gap, and search and rescue is all gap.
You're exactly right. The last 2 years we haven't had to, but for many of the more than 2 decades, we just write out personal check and put it in the funds.
And a lot of people do that. And the only thing I had to add to what you say about supporting your teams, just before you support the teams, vet them a little. Do a little background check on them. Ask around about them. Make sure that they're legitimate.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's so easy to vet any type of first responder. You can check with the police blogs. You can check with the police departments. You can see who was responding on this search, this drowning here, this crime case here, and you'll see what are the teams that are out there doing the job versus someone that's just, newly formed 501c3 collecting money and doesn't respond.
And we're almost up to the after show. Last question before we do that music. What do you think your legacy will be in search and rescue? And Chuck's. Let's throw Chuck in there too, because we haven't said anything about Chuck.
Well, hopefully the legacy will be better trained dogs. I mean, I'm very specific on dogs. Maybe my legacy, I'll be able to learn how to use my radio.
I would stick with the dogs. Stick with the dogs. Well, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Okay.
My own beliefs are in my song. A thinker, a drummer, and then makes no difference what song I'm in. I'm everyday people. Yeah.
Hi, we're still talking with Vicki Wooters. This is the after show portion. We were talking last about finances in search and rescue and how we get no money.